I said I'd do it, and I am determined not to let this one pass by. So today we're taking a look at Fans Hobby Brightstorm, their version of Dreadwind, the Powermaster Dreadwind. And yeah, okay. Fans Hobby released or showed initially a version of this that was just like a gray prototype, and I thought that looks really cool. I can't wait to see the finished thing. And then they showed off the colors, and it was from the Japanese release of the figure, which is dark gray, kind of an off-white, and red and purple. And I I completely get why people would want that deco, but I 100% did not. I really wanted this one, the one with the turquoise colors. And that's what Frightstorm is. I forget what the name of the red version is. It's not the same name, but it's the same figure, just different, red instead of turquoise, and like the head is painted a little differently. But yeah, for me, that's not what I was looking for. But when I saw that they were doing this in this color scheme, that is what I desperately was like, yes, absolutely. I want that. And as you can see, I got that. Now, I'm far from an expert on this. Big surprise for anyone familiar with this channel, but the vehicle mode looks convincing. I don't know if it's the right jet mode or if it's something else. I just know it looks really good. I love the color breakup here, and they definitely took some liberties with how they distributed the color. Because in both the Power of the Primes version and the G1 original, this back section is entirely gray. It's not just like the kind of white going through and then gray tail fins and like all that. So definitely some liberties taken. The gray nose cone section is a lot more pronounced. I don't mind it. It's just something I noticed. And of course, it's Fans Hobby, so there are lots of like little painted details all around this thing, like the kind of slightly darker gray, still light, but the slightly darker gray square sections that are painted in a few places, and the gunmetal-y gray color around the cockpit. But it looks really cool, and I should probably get my complaints out of the way initially. Jet mode complaints, very few and far between. The main one being I wish the tail section locked in a little better, because it's really easy to like nudge it out of place. And it's not like going to fall apart or anything like that. Like it takes some effort to get it to start moving for the transformation, but I just wish it didn't do this. That's not my favorite thing. But again, like it's fine. It's not a huge deal. And as long as you're not picking the jet up by the tail, I don't think you're going to notice it as a problem. The underside is pretty clean. And the way it transforms is really interesting too. I like it. But the thing that kind of sucks is the landing gear. Flipping out the landing gear here is a real pain because they tab in a little bit, and also you don't really get any good way to get a nail or anything into this section here. So basically, if you want to have the landing gear out, it's much easier to pull them out before you transform it into a jet, or detransform it slightly, bend the knee, and then that gives you the clearance that you can pull this out. That's just not ideal. And also the front landing gear. I do not like taking the front landing gear out because you have to like split the section in half and flip this out, fold it out, and like push this back together. But like the way all of this comes together, it's very, very easy to kind of misalign things and stuff. And it's not the biggest deal. Like you could still get it how it's supposed to go, and it's not going, like it's not a deal breaker or anything like that. It's just a little bit annoying. And I do wish that that wasn't the way it is. But it's how they decided to do it. I'll fold the landing gear away before we go into robot mode, or at least I'll try to remember, but gonna keep it out for now just so it can be on the table. And also, I do have to say, as much as I'm not a fan of the landing gear's implementation, it works pretty darn well. Like, they roll really well. But yeah, it's all things considered, pretty clean jet mode. I like that the intake in the front here has been painted. You've got naked robot arms just sitting there with the fists poking out of the back. I don't know how they could have done this differently, but it is what it is. And this guy, one other thing, this guy also has stickers, which I did apply. Normally, well, not normally, I can't really say that. I didn't bother to apply the stickers to Fans Hobbies Overlord because I just don't like the way they look, but I did apply them to this guy, and I applied them to Double Evil, and I hope that this year, before the end of the year, I want to try and do a video on Double Evil, but we'll see. But yeah, like I applied a sticker on the back here, the striped stickers on the wings, and these were a pain because this isn't just like one sticker you slap over the wing. Each of these stripes is its own thing, so getting them lined up and everything was not the most fun. And also there's these stickers here, and then there are the repro labels that I added. I did the Decepticon symbol on the nose cone there, and also one for robot mode. So just a handful of stickers, but I preferred doing them because I really, really like Dreadwind's deco, and I think the stripes and these bits, especially in robot mode for these bits, but like the stripes really add a lot to the wings, I feel. And yeah, it's a cool looking jet. Color separation is nice. It's very evocative of the toy that I was hoping it would be evocative of. And it's also actually really big. Like, I was not expecting this jet to be quite as large as it is. It's not it's not enormous, but it's kind of up there with DX9's Gewalt in the sense that I transformed it, or I didn't transform. It comes in jet mode, but I took him out of the box and was just like, wow, that's a lot of jet. So bringing in our usual size comparisons, you can kind of stand up. You can kind of see what I'm talking about here. How Brightstorm is a pretty big jet. That is a sizable vehicle. And because I can, I'm going to bring in a couple other extra size comparisons this time around. Get you out of the way, get you out of the way. And since we were just talking about him, here he is with G1 Dreadwind. And I wouldn't take these as like a one-to-one in the colors because my G1 Dreadwind is a little yellowed. Not like massively, it still kind of comes across as like an off-white grayish color, but when put next to this guy, it definitely looks a bit on the yellow side. And also, here is Power Prime's Dreadwind, and I feel like actually these two colors are much closer than this. This is a much less, like this is a much more like whitish gray, which I'm fine with. I think these colors all look great together. But you can see there is a slight difference in tone between the different versions. Also, I really wish this guy should have come with a second gun. I've been thinking I might want to get a hold of a like either try and get a Junker Power of the Primes Dreadwind, or see if I can just get another gun just so he'll have two of them. But yeah, there is that. And finally, the most important size comparison, as always, here is, shift this over a little bit, here is Fans Hobbies Fright Storm with the Duck Tank. Okay, so I need to go over one more thing before we start in on the whole engineering aspect of this figure, because we still have one more element to discuss. That is the Powermaster, or whatever these things are called. The thing that comes with Dreadwind. Just tuck you over here, I guess. Hopefully that nose cone is safe from the cat currently on my lap. But yeah, here is Fright Storm's little dude, and it's a fan's hobby Powermaster. It's exactly the same basic body as all of them. It's the same exact engineering and general skeletal design as was Double Evil's 2 Powermasters. Looks good though. There's some nice molded detail, which the molded detail is slightly different in a few key areas, like I believe the legs are different, torso and head are definitely different, and of course the coloring is different. You do get a little bit of a kind of bird-like helmeted head, a little visor inside the beak, which is kind of fun. And you also get a little bit of articulation. The head can turn, so there is that. The arms can rotate as well as go in and out to a point, but they do kind of get stuck when you go up to this point. But they can go in and out. You get elbows that can bend a little bit. I mean, given the size and purpose of this figure, I don't really mind that. And the legs can go forward and back and in and out a little bit. You get some rotation, you get knee bend, and that's pretty much it. So pretty basic in terms of articulation, but it still gets the job done, and it looks pretty good. And is a pretty spot-on representation of G1 Dreadwind's Powermaster, at least in terms of coloration. Like you can see also the molding is very similar. This guy doesn't really have clawed toes, but does have little kneecap things. The torso is not the same molding, but it is reminiscent. And the head is, well, this one's more of like a monstrous bird head, whereas this one's more of like a robot with a bird head helmet on. But still, that's not a bad likeness. Colors are pretty good. I like how they did the color layout too, how you've got the gray legs, gray arms, purple body and head, and the little turquoise in the back. Like, it's pretty much the same color layout. But anyway, here is how they stack up to each other size-wise. And also in terms of size, here is the Fans Hobby Powermaster next to a, in this case, I think it was Earthrise. Earthrise Knock. I forget what this guy actually was called, but yeah, Knock from Earthrise. And I do believe his little sticker fell off again, didn't it? So there's a little sticker that goes on the back there that appears to be missing, even though I verified that it was there before I started this video. So that's cool. That sticker just does not want to stay on, and now I have no idea where it went. But whatever. Point is, that is how this guy, whose name I don't know, stacks up. And now to transform him into his engine, it's just like other Fans Hobby figures like this. You want to straighten out the arms, rotate the legs so that the knees are pointed in, and then bring the legs up, and the fist will actually tuck into the back of the thigh, like that. And then the leg curls up, and the back of the ankle plugs into the peg on the shoulder. And just do that on the other side as well. And put that up, take that in. There we go. There is the engine mode. Just flip them around, and there you've got the little engine. And hang on a sec, let me transform the G1 version into its engine mode. Okay. So there we can see the two of them together, and the engine design is pretty similar. It's definitely different, but like I could kind of see where this shape is being taken from this. So yeah, that is how those two bits measure up. And for Knock, let's just transform him on camera real quick because it's more entertaining than me transforming him off camera and talking. So bring that up, rotate that, bring that up. There we go. And yeah, that sticker is gone. I do not know where that went. Oh well. Yeah, here is this guy with the Earthrise, whatever these were, tape deck guys. Because that's how they stack up size-wise. Now, bringing back Fright Storm. You may notice he does not have a Powermaster hole on the top like the G1 toy does. That's because that's where this door comes in, where you pull this up, and this will expose the spot for the Powermaster. Now, if you really want to, I've seen this demoed like officially by Fans Hobby. You can pop this out. There's this little clip that is designed to let this door pop off, and then you just tuck this down like that. Hi, honey. And then you can plug in like little tabs on the sides of the legs, plug in here. You can plug in the Powermaster, and that gives you the look that you want for the, being plugged in mode. But I kind of prefer to not detach the little door. So I'm gonna just pull this up. Come on. Come on. Everybody's watching. Stop embarrassing me. Come on. Oh, why? Why does it do this? Okay, fine. Fine, I will bust out a screwdriver. Try not to use a screwdriver because I don't want to use metal on my delicate plastic figures, but sometimes I don't have a choice. But okay. With this like this, just clip this back in. Clip it back in, come on. Clip it back in. There we go. And then plug this guy in here. There we go. And then you can just kind of push this forward on that hinge. And this little notch will go over that little portion of the engine that sticks out. And there you go. I know not everyone likes this, but I prefer having the option to close up this gap when this guy's not plugged in. And I think this is a decent way to get around that. So this is how I prefer to do it. So there we go. Now we can transform this guy into a robot. And you do not actually need to insert this guy to turn the figure into the robot mode. It's purely like there's no actual mechanics to it. There's no mechanism that unlocks anything like in the G1 toy. It is 100% just for aesthetics and nostalgia. So you absolutely can just leave that thing in or out. It's entirely up to you. I'm going to leave it in because you can. Basically, you can leave this guy plugged in for robot mode. It doesn't get in the way of anything. So yeah, for anyone who's curious, I'm just going to leave it in. But before we transform this guy, if you like this video or any of the other videos that I've done in the past and you would like to support the channel, I do have both a Ko-fi and a Patreon set up. There's a link to both down in the description. The Ko-fi is just, leave a tip if you want. And Patreon, I have a single $1 tier that gets you early access to new videos for $1 a month. Additionally, I've started playing around with the idea of Patreon-only videos, like I recently filmed an unboxing that is only going to be up on Patreon. So if any of that stuff sounds appealing, you can absolutely do that. Otherwise, if you want to support the channel without spending money, you could always like, comment, share, subscribe, that kind of thing, you know, the usual YouTube stuff. So with all that out of the way, let us transform Bright Storm. So first thing you want to do is push in a little booster thing in the back, rotate the tail fin around 180 degrees, and flip up the other little tail fins. Take this section here and split up and hinge it up. And now these pieces back here will actually open up. This will split like so. And this will go all the way around and sit along the back of the tail section like this. And now this whole assembly will hinge up on a multitude of hinges and just kind of settle like that and cover up a little Powermaster guy, but like there's just enough space so it can fit without like clashing into anything, and it cleans up. Well, it doesn't clean up per se, but it does get that out of the way. Also, I realized I was going to do the landing gear, so yeah, just pull those in. And this thing, I want to split this and slide both of these pieces out. And, might as well do this while we're here too. We'll pop out the guns and deal with these later. They just tab in right here. It's like these little tabs on the sides. So yeah. I'm also going to want to pop this up a little bit because we're actually going to want to slide this out more than you might think it's able to slide out. I actually want to get this piece up here split apart. Slide this out, and with this slid out, now you can fold in this piece and fold in the landing gear, and then slide all this back together, and that's how you hide the landing gear. And I don't like doing that because you have to disassemble the jet partially, and it's just a little bit awkward. Anyway, now that we've done the tail section, we're going to do the legs. So the entire leg assembly unpegs together, and it just there's little slots here that tab in here. So that comes out, then swings around 180 degrees, and we'll hold off on doing the legs because they're not hard. It's just the way that the torso comes together. We want to do the rest of it kind of first. So I'm going to untab the arms from the wings, and they're just these little slots on the underside of the wing that these little tabs tab into. And we'll just bring the arms out a little bit to get them out of the way. Here, untab, bring that back, out. The wings will fold in more, but I'm just going to do this to give a little bit more space back here. And this guy's already getting quite tall, so let's raise this up a little bit more. Okay, want to slide these pieces up. There's actually this little channel here. This bit is for the combination mode, because yes, they are doing a Darkwing. I forget what that guy's called, but they do combine, and that's what this slider's for. But there's this extra bit up here. You want to slide this piece up so that it settles in there. And when you're going back to jet mode, you just slide it down and just line it up so that it's at the top of that longer track. So slide that up and slide that up. I'm going to pull out these blue bits like so. Now we can extend this piece and split the fuselage thing like we did for the for the landing gear. So pull these pieces out as far as they'll go, then pull these other sections out, which again, might need a spudger for that, but get those pulled out, and then keep pulling, because now this section will pop out, will slide out, and you want to keep pulling until you feel it click. Like, I don't know if you saw or heard, but push these back in a little bit. You can feel like it'll thunk into place. Now let's fold this landing gear back out because we need to deal with the head and all that. So I want to take this gray piece and pop that up, and then kind of rotate this forward and feed this gray piece through, and just angle that back as far as it'll go. Now I want to take the head, and I want to make sure that this is still slid as far up as it'll go, but you want to hold the head down. And I like to make sure it can clear these bits. Don't want to scratch up those ears. Once it's clear, you can fold the landing gear all the way in. And then fold this section down and feed the head through the same hole that that panel was going through. And it's just a whole lot of being careful not to scrape things against things, but it does work. There we go. And now that the head is through, we can close these up a little bit. You don't want to push these in all the way because then you'll pop them out, and that happens a lot. But just carefully slide them in so that they can fit into this cavity here. Take the tip of the nose and fold it in all the way. And then this can come down and peg into place. I believe it was Pia that said it actually works better to do that last. So I'm going to follow his advice and instead start on the legs. So hinge this up, and these bits here will tab in here. That kind of thunks in place really nicely. Can split the legs, bring them out a little bit, and also slide them out. I actually either forgot or wasn't aware that that happens and just realized that now. But yeah, do that. Now, around back, pop open these panels on the backs of the legs and pull out the feet. Pull that out and close that back up. And swing this. That doesn't want to swing, so we'll grab the spudger again. There we go. Hinge that all the way out. And you want to make sure that this hinge is as far forward as you can get it. Close that up. And this is the weird part. You actually want to extend the shins forward slightly. They actually slide forward. And that's why you want to push these. There, went back again. But yeah, slide that forward. And that's why you want to push these forward so that there'll be enough room for those shins. Fold back the heel, and in addition to folding back the heel, you want to extend it. That actually slides out. And that gives you the foot. And same deal on this side. I'm actually going to do the heel first, just so that I don't risk popping the shin back. But do that. Extend the heel, straighten it out, and then pop forward the shins. Really don't understand this particular point. Like, it's really easy to accidentally pop those back without meaning to, but oh well. So, we are almost done. Now comes my favorite part. The arm transformation is a lot of fun. It's I've seen and heard a lot of people compare it to cocking a shotgun, and yeah, it's kind of like that. You pull forward to extend the forearm past the bicep, and then you push this piece back to complete the forearm, and that exposes the fist. And it is kind of a wild transformation for for arms, which is really kind of cool in concept, at least. It does have some drawbacks, like these sliders do not click into place. I really don't know why they didn't do that. I'm guessing there were some kind of limitations, but yeah, they don't click. Oh well. But showing it again, this arm slide forward so that you got that elbow, and then push that back so that you expose the hand. And it's a very, I don't know, it's very simple. It's definitely got its foibles, but it's also kind of fun and cool. Okay, now we're almost done. Going to angle the wings out and then back in, and the hinges will actually naturally stop. And then I just push them in from there. So that takes care of the wings. And this assembly, I don't think... Okay, yeah, this whole assembly is connected to this piece. So since that's slid up, we're good. So there we've got all that. Now we can swing this assembly down. You want to make sure that this is still slid all the way forward, because that can cause issues if you're not careful. But slide that forward, bring this down, and it will settle inside of the waist section. And now there's these little tabs here that tab into the underside of the these bits. And that locks the torso together, more or less. And finally, this panel comes down and closes off the back. And straighten out the head. You can slide it forward, slide it back. I prefer to keep it slid back because I feel like that, much like with Legacy Dreadwind, if you have it slid forward, it sits ahead of the shoulders. If you slide it back, it's more lined up with the shoulders. But there we go. There we have Fans Hobbies Fright Storm in robot mode, and there are definitely some things about it that I feel like could have been handled a little differently, but by and large, I kind of adore this figure. Kind of nothing, I absolutely adore this figure. But it's definitely also got some interesting choices. Like, the main thing that stands out to me even now is the fact that his hands and forearms look gigantic. I mean, maybe not gigantic, but they definitely look bigger than they should be. Like, this is as far forward as these will go. And these, like, so like the bicep is really kind of short. And that makes him look a little bit Popeye forearmed, but then like the fists themselves are also kind of big. Like, they look less huge once they're closed up. Like, if I actually ball up the fist, it's not as noticeably big, but it is still kind of like, oh, it's like how Hellboy has that one giant stone hand, except both of his arms do that. Yeah, it's, again, like, I don't think it's like a figure ruining thing, it's just a thing that I noticed that I'm kind of like, that could have been a little bit better. But still really cool, and like the colors are fantastic. Aside from the forearm stuff, I feel like the proportions are really nice. Like, the shoulders, they are a little spread out. They're a little, like, yeah. The shoulders stand out a little too much from the body in terms of, like, average proportions, but he's still really neat, and the colors are fantastic, and the detailing is great. You can see that there's a lot of extra, well, not extra, but like there's a lot of detail now that we saw. There's on the underside of the jet. There's now forefront, like the silver in the shins and the gunmetal there, and the gunmetal stripes on the thighs. These little bits there. That is a repro label, but like, I like how you've got this lighter gray here, but then the slightly darker but still very light gray in the center section to kind of just mix up the colors a little bit. It adds a little bit more visual interest. The forearms, you get some nice gunmetal within that purple. You've got the 2 hinge colors, which help to separate things out. There's even like a little bit of coloration right there, just that tiny little detail. Or maybe it's not coloration, maybe that's just really molded well so that the shadows make it stand out. My favorite detail on this guy, though, well, actually, we've got to talk about the shoulders. The shoulders are also nice. He's got the little pylons and then these gunmetal bits going around the outside, and that comes like that. That's painted. That is not a sticker. But my favorite detail on this guy has got to be that chest. It is so good. I love that he still has the jet mode cockpit for a chest, but it separates out in a really interesting way. So now he's like it expands. So it both changes the profile, like now it's kind of staggered. So it's a much more pronounced thing, but it also is like, it's like layered. So it goes up to here and stops and then comes out and then goes back up again. And it also reveals some extra detail in the torso itself that is painted in a couple of places too, which looks really good. It looks really good in conjunction with the cockpit. And I also like having those stickers there. It is such a cool design. I love that chest. And I just think this figure is really cool. He has absolutely got a bit of a backpack, but for what it is, it compacts pretty well. Like, yes, I would absolutely love it if this compacted better, but I feel like a big reason why it doesn't compact more is because they wanted to do the combination with whatever Darkwing's called. So yeah, I understand it. And then we come to the head, which, let me adjust this here. Okay. So the head, it is a very Dreadwind head. He's got the kind of Dread Pirate Roberts hood in purple going all the way around. But then you also have the white for the ears and the little mouth plate and the little eyes poking through. He has the gold eyes, which are nice. I like the gold eyes. A little bit of yellow on the forehead, which is a new detail. Like, that is a thing that has not been painted with the other versions, but I like it. And I think it's hard to tell for sure, but it kind of looks like the mouth plate is... No, okay. I thought maybe the mouth plate was like a very, very slightly different shade of gray, because when you look at it from this angle, it kind of looks like that, but I think it's more clever use of molding to create shadows. Yeah, it's a very Dreadwind head, and I think it's really cool. Not the best feature of the toy, though. The best feature is still that chest. That torso design is just immaculate. I love it so much. Now, in terms of articulation, there is a lot of interesting stuff to go over. So the head is on a ball joint. You get some left and right tilt, some up and down nod, and rotation. But in addition to that, you can slide the neck forward and backwards. And the neck is also on a platform. And you can use that platform to look forward more, like down more, up a little bit more, all depending on where the neck is positioned. So yeah, you can use that. The arms can do a full 360. It's a friction joint, but you can do a full 360, though you may need to get the wings out of the way. So you can go all the way around. You also have a built-in butterfly joint, which if you go too far forward, you do run the risk of unpegging the torso section, which isn't the worst thing, but it does kind of limit that forward butterfly a little bit. The arms can also go in and out. There's a little flap that'll get out of the way, so you can go out a little bit past 90, which is nice. You get a bicep swivel that is rather snug, but I feel like that'll wear down a little bit over time. You get a 90-degree bend at the elbow, which does that unfortunate thing where the the bicep is a lot smaller than the forearm, so it looks a little bit weird when you use it, but you do have that. You do not get forearm rotation, but you do get wrist swivel. And then the thumb is on a ball joint and a hinge just past that. And then the fingers are each individually hinged in 3 places. So you've got that hinge, and then hinge at the tip. So you can get pretty expressive with the hands. Now this is something I thought was really cool. Because of the transformation, you actually get a tiny bit of left and right lean, but this is something I was actually really amazed by. Despite how this thing transforms, you do get a waist swivel. It's a little bit wonky in terms of where it sits, because it's the way the mechanism works. It's just like they had to do it a little bit, let's say, unorthodox. But it's cool that it works. Like you can see there's the rotational joint there. So the rotation does happen kind of slightly back from where the waist actually sits or would sit, but it's still pretty effective and it goes pretty far for what it is. That's just really cool. I really like that. And the legs themselves also have a fair bit of motion. You can fold these flaps out of the way, and they can kick forward to just about 90 and kick back not super far until they bang into stuff. You can move stuff out of the way, but like I feel like that's fine considering how this guy works. You can go out on really solid ratchets to just about 90. You get a thigh rotation. You get, nope, kept that out. You get you get 90 degrees of bend at the knee, which I think is adequate, and it's molded in a way that there is, whoops, like that shin. It's molded in a way that this kind of fills in the gap so you don't get like a separated knee. That's really nice. I just really like that. And that shin, I don't get why they did that. There's no reason for it, but that's how they did it. But the foot, the actual foot, does rotate because it's on a ball joint down here. So you can rotate and you get tilt and you can go up and down a bit, well, mostly down or back. But yeah, you get a pretty decent amount of articulation out of the feet, and you can also angle the heel if you need to do that. So he is pretty posable for what you get, or for how he's designed, and I'm still just blown away by the torso. Not specifically this. I'm blown away by the fact that they gave him a waist swivel, despite having that rather intricate armature set up in there. Now for the accessories, he has his guns, which are identical, and just flip out the handles on both real quick. And this is also kind of interesting. They even did this, where if you notice, as you pull up the handle, a little piece of plastic comes up to fill in that gap. That is so unnecessary, but it's cool that they did it. And this does the fans hobby thing, which used to be the make toys thing, where you've got a kind of T-shaped bit on the back of the weapon handle, and this kind of groove on the inside of the hand. So you just line it up, slide it in, and he can hold his weapons with, like, that gun is not coming out unless you pull it out, which I think is great. And the tolerances on this are great too. Like, it does not take any effort to push the gun handles into the hand like that. But because it's so fluid, you also don't have to worry about like it's essentially, it's incredibly fluid to push in, but it's still solid enough that it's not going to just flop out on its own. And I really appreciate that, because that means it's really easy to get the guns in place, but also they're not just going to fall out. And there he has his guns, and the guns themselves are very reminiscent of, like, they're not the same, but they're reminiscent of G1 Dreadwind's guns. It's a similar profile, similar silhouette. with some obvious molding differences. And also there is the kind of gunmetal that they added in just a couple of spots to add a little bit of visual interest to those guns. And yeah, this guy is super cool, and I'm not a Dreadwind fan. Like, I'm not huge like, oh, Dreadwind is the coolest. Like, I don't know anything about Dreadwind. I just think his colors are neat. But this figure is fantastic. Dare I say amazing. This side keeps wanting to come untapped for some reason. This one stays in a lot better. I don't know what the deal is. But yeah, he's a really, really cool figure. Really cool. And for some reason, he's not standing evenly. I don't know why he's leaning. Don't really know what's going on there, but hey, use the tilt in the torso to offset it a bit. Yeah, he is super cool. I wanted him just because I thought he looked neat, and I like Dreadwind's colors and I like his design. But like, this figure is actually really nice. Just as a figure, it's incredibly nice. And he's also pretty big. Like, if I start bringing in the size comparisons, you can see that he is rather sizey. Rather very sizey. Almost comically large compared to the standard size comparisons. Like, I knew this guy was big going into it. I saw some videos ahead of time, and even then, it still surprised me just how enormous this guy is in hand. I mean, he's not Double Evil huge. Double Evil is massive compared to this guy, but he's still like a lot bigger than I was expecting. I was thinking he'd be like maybe around this tall, but nope. He is like, I want to say roughly MP10 height. I don't actually have an MP10 to do a size comparison with, but I feel like that's around what he is. He's very big, is what I'm getting at. But also incredibly cool. And since we were looking at him before, let's bring you in a little bit. And there we go. There he is with G1 Dreadwind and Power of the Primes Dreadwind. So there are the three Dreadwinds and how they all stack up together. And he is absolutely, unquestionably the tallest out of all of them. I don't think there's any denying that. I still can't figure out where the sticker for this guy went. That's going to bug me. And actually, no, let's keep these guys in here real quick, because I do want to talk about how, like, Vans Hobby did a particularly good job with, like, homaging certain details from the G1 figure. Like, you've got the gray feet and purple shins. Well, this is all, like, the coloration is kind of dependent on which version you get, but, like, you got the gray feet, the purple shins, the turquoise bits for the hips, but then instead of this kind of stickered mechanical detail, they went with some molded detail that's not quite the same, but is reminiscent of this, and then added this really nice silver circle in the center. You've still got the jet fuselage that becomes the entire front of the torso, but again, I really love how this separates and adds some more dimension and layering to the torso. And because the nose cone folds in to the torso, now they've just molded this to look like the nose cone, but the coloration is a little different. But they still have a spot for a Decepticon logo, which is why I put one there, because that's where the Decepticon logo usually sits in the G1 toy, and I just think that's really cool how that works. I like how you can kind of put the Decepticon symbol on the nose cone in jet mode, and then it hides in robot mode, but then you can put a Decepticon logo there, and it's still kind of where it would be. But yeah, these stickers, very similar to these stickers here. You do lose this bit, but I'm okay with that. And I, of course, still have the pylon shoulders, purple forearms, gray fists, and I guess in a way, this is more reminiscent of the G1 toy because the fists on G1 Dreadwind are a little bit proportionally big. So maybe that's why they did what they did. And I mean, the backpack on this guy is also a bit egregious. So I think, yeah, I think considering how all this works, it's a pretty decent compromise that they came up with. And the Power of the Primes version, this one is covered in repro labels now, so the detailing is going to be a little different, but there's a lot of stuff here. I kind of feel like Ben's Hobby almost seems to have taken some of the design cues from this and merged them with some design cues from this, because like these bits around the waist section, or the midriff, these little turquoise bits with the silver on them, looks very kind of similar to what's going on here. So I kind of get that vibe from it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just imagining things, but that's kind of the feeling I get from it. And yeah, let's get these guys out of here so we can finish this up. So I have talked for plenty on this figure. But last and most important size comparison, here he is with the duck tank. So that does it for Fans Hobby's Fright Storm, their version of a masterpiece-ish Dreadwind. At least I'm catching myself when I do it. And yeah, I think this is fantastic. Okay, one other thing I want to talk about. I saw some people take issue with the feet because his feet are just little like gray planks, and I get it, but like they are molded, and like the molding is kind of reminiscent to what the Power of the Primes feet look like. And in addition, yes, his feet are just these little planks, but like the G1 feet are also kind of just planks, so I don't know. I feel like it's not a problem. But yeah, this figure is great. I was not expecting to be as floored by this thing as I ended up being. But the transformation is really interesting and in most cases fun. There's nothing about it I don't like, but it is a little awkward getting the head swung out of the torso and like the whole front landing gear thing. Like that kind of stuff, that is a little bit... that I feel like that could be a smoother process. But even with that being a little bit awkward to do, it's not a bad transformation at all. It's just the kind of slightly fiddly part to an otherwise really straightforward and very clever transformation. I still love how they took the idea of the G1 toy's legs that swing 180 degrees to go up for the jet mode, which is still a really interesting and clever transformation trick that this does. But I like how they interpreted that engineering-wise by just having the legs and waist assembly be its own piece that once you collapse it together, swings entirely, like the whole thing swings 180 degrees so that the bottoms of the legs are pointing towards the front of the jet. It's cool how it's like the G1 transformation as seen through a modern high-end third-party filter. I think that's really neat. And again, the detailing and coloring on this guy are just fantastic. But anyway, that is enough of that. I have said enough on this guy. So what do you all think of Fans Hobby Fright Storm, or whatever the other version was called, as well as their Darkwing, which they are doing in both color versions as well. Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching, and I don't know if I'm ever going to find the sticker that fell off of this guy. I guess it's not that big a deal if I don't, but still annoying.